On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, the bulk carrier Ava comes under attack from the Russians. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So, we don't have enough ship attacks going on in and around the Red Sea being perpetrated by the Houthi. We are back to an old stomping grounds of what's going on with shipping, and that is the Black Sea. And now we have a Russian attack against a commercial vessel, the bulk carrier Ava, St. Kitts, Nevis flagged, heading outbound from Ukraine, heading for the Turkish Straits and eventually Egypt. We're going to take a look at this story, details about the vessel, and what this potentially means. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. So here's the story over at Splash 24/7. Sam Chambers and Bohan Lepik have this story out there. Russia accused of striking bulk carrier in Romanian waters. Story goes on, marking the first confirmed strike on a merchant ship in the Black Sea in many months. St. Kitts and Nevis flagged bulk carrier was struck by a Russian-launched missile after departing the port of Chernonsk, Ukraine. According to the maritime security consultancy Ambry, the vessel, which was transporting grain to Egypt, sustained damage to its port side, including a cargo hold and crane. Ambry also said that they were able to sail to Romania under its own power, indicating that its propulsion system was not compromised. No casualties were reported at the time of the writing. Now, Ukraine has been able to sail ships pretty independently here for quite a while. If you go back in time to the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the waters off Ukraine were closed down. The Ukrainians mined their own waters to prevent a Russian landing. At the same time, the Russian Navy, with some very high-value assets, including the cruiser Moskva, sailed across the Gulf of Odessa, blocking it. They seized Snake Island. They had a series of oil platforms, which they had fortified, and basically prevented the Ukrainians from exporting any grain. Fast forward, you have a naval and military campaign that pushes the Russians out of the Gulf of Odessa. You have an agreement between both sides to allow the shipment of grain out of Ukraine, what's called the Black Sea Grain Initiative. This was brokered by Turkey and the International Maritime Organization under the United Nations. That eventually broke down, and what you have really right now going on in and around the Black Sea is spheres of influence. The Ukrainians are on the west side of the Black Sea. The Russians are in the central and eastern part of the Black Sea. So the last strike on a commercial ship was back in November. A Liberian-flagged bulk carrier was struck by a Russian air-to-surface missile, resulted in 1 dead and 4 injured on board as the ship was arriving in a Ukrainian port. So it's been quite a while, almost a year since we've seen this strike. The first indication we had of the strike was a statement released by the Ukrainian President Zelenskyy on his Twitter page talking about this strike. However, if you go at marine traffic, we'll see some data. Here's the Ava off the coast of Romania, Constanta specifically, underway, drifting. There is a search and rescue craft alongside the vessel. You'll notice here is the statement came out that the vessel was from St. Kitts and Nevis, and a quick search realizes it could only be this vessel, even though it hasn't been named. So these are all the St. Kitts and Nevis flag vessels that are in and around the Black Sea. This vessel right here, Sea Star, is waiting to sail to Ukraine, and Ava is the only one. I also did a visual confirmation of the profile of the vessel against the pictures that were released, and it's pretty clear Ava is the only ship that this could be. So here's the track of Ava coming out of Ukraine. I've shaded in the area on here that is designated as the war zone by the Joint War Committee, great sounding committee. This is a committee under Lloyd's that identifies areas where ships are required to have war risk insurance. And what's been interesting about this is that war risk insurance in and around this area had been high for a long time, up in single digits. We were talking about 3 to 7%, depending on what time frame you were looking at. However, war risk insurance has slowly come down. Matter of fact, one of the things we saw with the most recent attack on Sayunian by the Houthi was that war risk in the Red Sea and the Black Sea are almost equal, about 0.8%. So ships sailing out of Ukraine will head up to an area, a designated kind of meeting point, and the ships will sail in groups usually, and they follow a path along the coast of Ukraine. They turn off their AIS. That is very common. We see this all the time because they don't want to advertise their position. And then when they pop out on the other side, they'll turn their AIS back on. The ships try to stay within territorial waters of countries within 12 nautical miles under UNCLOS, the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. And what we see is Ava setting sail here, heading out, and then all of a sudden the vessel stops. We believe this is where the attack probably took place. The vessel immediately turned, heading toward the coastline to get within Romanian territorial waters, to get protection from Romania, and now the vessel is sitting there off the coast of Constanta at this time. So this is Ava from an image I pulled off of Marine Traffic, a pretty standard bulk carrier. She was built back in 1997, 167 meters in length, can carry about 27,000 deadweight tons of cargo, about 16,500 gross tons. You'll see 4 cranes on board the vessel to load and offload, and what you have is hatches between all 5. So this is the number 1 hold right here in hatch, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then number 5. Note the blue and white stack here, the kind of yellowish, tannish, sandish color of the vessel. You'll see that in the imagery when we look at the damage to the vessel. We believe the vessel was struck right here in midships on number 3 hold. Based on past attacks, we believe it was a missile, probably either an air-to-surface missile that was launched, so it's coming down in a ballistic trajectory and came straight down and hit the number 3 hatch. This is the imagery that was released by President Zelenskyy on his Twitter feed, and what you're seeing here is exactly that. This is the number 3 hatch. You're looking forward at this time. These cranes here, this is the crane between the number 2 and 3 hatch. This is the crane between number 1 and 2 hatch, and that's the foremast. All the way up there, you can see the vessel was carrying grain. So understand that a missile coming straight down on a vessel like that, it's going to be like hitting dirt. I mean, it's packed grain. So any explosion that happens is going to go upward and outward. So you're going to get an external explosion, which accounts for what you're seeing here. You're seeing part of the grain kind of blown apart, but what you're missing here is the hatch cover. And it is believed that the hatch cover was blown off. Closer imagery here showing you the twisted metal and steel. This is probably looking aft here at the number 3 crane. That's the crane between the number 3 and number 4 hold, looking aft and toward the starboard side of the vessel. And then here's looking aft again. Notice a couple of things. You can see the blue stack colors there. This ship has a blue, white, blue stack color arrangement there. The red on the top of the house, again, the yellowish color here on the mast. It meets all the configuration plus the number of cranes. This would be the aft crane here. This is the crane between 4 and 5 hold. This is the crane between 3 and 4 hold. And you're looking aft here and you're seeing grain all blown out of the hatches all throughout that area. Here, just a little bit more destruction you're seeing where it is. What is really impressive and fortunate is that no major fire happened. Believe it or not, grain carriers are one of the most dangerous ships to sail on because of what's called dust explosions. When you take the grain and you atomize it and throw it up in the air and it ignites, that all that surface area there, fine particles surface area, goes off in a big whoosh explosion. And very dangerous to be on board a bulk carrier. Fortunately, it does not look like this ship suffered. If it did have a fire, it was either quickly contained or self-extinguished itself. Finally, we go over here to Marine Traffic to look at some details of the vessel. Again, a lot of this we have already covered before. 27-year-old vessel. The ship is flagged in St. Kitts and Nevis, an open registry. It's the reason you flag in this region. The ship was heading toward Istanbul, but that is just for the passage through the Turkish Straits. We believe this vessel was heading to Egypt over the past year. This ship has been operational in and around the Mediterranean, largely the southern and eastern Mediterranean, and along the coast of East Africa. If we look at ownership of the vessel, the beneficial owner is VRS Maritime Services, located in Piraeus, Greece. The registered owner is also located in Greece. Ship was built back in Korea, and its classification society is under the Korean registry. The P&I Club, that the insurance company that protects and insures the insurance, is the West of England Ship Owners and Mutual Insurance Association. So what does this mean going forward? Well, we haven't seen an attack on a vessel since November. Now, the last vessel attacked was coming into a port, and we know that the Russians have been targeting ports. We also know the Ukrainians have been targeting ports. We've just recently seen the Russians putting a lot of protections alongside the Kerch Bridge, and both sides have been attacking infrastructure. And attacking infrastructure is key. That prevents the war from widening, bringing in commercial shipping. However, this strike is much different. Because this vessel was underway and potentially in Romanian national waters, this indicates a potential escalation. Now, we have seen attacks against shipping go out of control in and around the Red Sea, which is putting into question the concept put forth by Hugo Gratis. Now, Hugo Gratis was a 17th century philosopher. I'm getting a little deep with you here right now. In 1609, Hugo wrote what is known as the basic tenet for our understanding of maritime law, what was called Mare Liberum. And Mare Liberum talks about the idea of freedom of the seas. And freedom of the seas have been a core concept in ocean shipping since that period of time, the idea that no one nation controls the world's waters. However, what we're seeing right now is a challenge to freedom of the seas. We see the Houthi on the Red Sea denying ocean shipping from sailing through, even though under UNCLOS, the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, Article 19 allows for innocent passage. The Houthi are attacking ships that are not connected to Israel in any way. And now we're potentially seeing an attack on shipping by the Russians in the western Black Sea. What this could mean is that because of the Ukrainian offensive toward Kursk, which I never thought I'd be talking about the Battle of Kursk. I'm a historian, and talking about the Battle of Kursk in 2024 is very strange because it was one of the largest tank battles in World War II in 1943. However, the attack into Kursk may be prompting the Russians to target Ukrainian logistics and supply. The Ukrainians are dependent on ocean shipping to get their grain out. It is fall, coming into fall. And if the Ukrainians cannot get their fall crops out, that's going to cost them tremendous amounts of money. And that could be part of a larger strategic plan by the Russians to hurt the Ukrainians in this conflict that's been going on for over 2.5 years, and we don't see it going away anytime soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit that super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly or yearly subscriber. So our next video, Sal, signing off.